I spent 200 hours meticulously planning my best friend's wedding for free, mapping out every detail on a shoestring budget, only to overhear her call me a farmer-slave girl behind my back and shrug, "It's not my fault you grew up poor." For months later, yesterday, she was sentenced to prison. Vanessa was my ride or die, so when she asked me to be her maid of honor, I happily said yes. I spent months planning, making sure every little thing was perfect. Her tastes were super specific, so I had to be extra careful not to mess up anything. Napkin colors, menu fonts, tablecloth material, every tiny detail was picked out by me. There were days when I was so swamped with her free wedding planning that I actually had to take time off my real job just to keep up. But I thought it was worth it because I wanted Vanessa to have the beautiful day she deserved, until I found out the truth about how she really saw me. By that point, I had put in over 200 hours of free labor into building Vanessa's dream wedding. I'd rescheduled doctor appointments, canceled dates, all to fit around her schedule. Then one day, I overheard her talking to another friend in the dressing room. "Yeah, sometimes I wish Lily wasn't so low class. It's honestly embarrassing being seen with her. But at least when people see her working for me, they think she's just some underpaid worker, which is an upgrade from the farmer-slave vibe she usually gives off." A rush of emotion hit me so hard I thought I might collapse. She knew my financial situation was one of my biggest insecurities. She knew how hard I'd worked to get where I am. I could have destroyed her entire wedding. I could have canceled everything, wasted thousands of her dollars, and turned her big day into a complete disaster. But I didn't. I kept planning because part of me still believed Vanessa was a good person deep down. I did make one decision, though. I wasn't going to her wedding. I texted her the day before, letting her know I wouldn't be attending, and explained what I had overheard. I told her there were no hard feelings, but I didn't think anyone harboring negative emotions should be there on her special day. She never responded. The day after her wedding, I blocked her number. I knew she had used me, and I had no desire to ever speak to her again. Honestly, I didn't think about her again until 3 days later when her Instagram post popped up on my feed. It was one of those slideshow posts, full of pictures from the wedding I had planned down to the tiniest detail. The caption read, "So lucky I had time to plan all of this by myself." It was hard work, but nothing worth having ever comes easy. Her friends flooded the comments, praising her and offering her 4- and 5-figure deals to plan their weddings, money that should have been mine. It was clear she posted it just to get under my skin. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I just blocked her on everything and moved on. Goodbye, Vanessa. Fast forward 3 months. I was living my life, assuming Vanessa was doing the same. I couldn't have been more wrong. One morning, I was pulling out of my driveway on my way to work when I noticed my brakes felt weird, mushy. Luckily, I had been in a car accident a few years earlier, so I was super paranoid about anything like that. I managed to get the car stopped safely and immediately called a mechanic. What he told me shattered my sense of safety. Someone had tampered with my brakes. And there was only one person who had a spare key to my car, Vanessa. I'm not usually the type to get angry, but I'm definitely not the type to let people walk all over me either. When I realized what she had done, I knew it was time to fight back. By the time I was done, she would wish we had never met. "I need to call the police," I told the mechanic, William, my hands shaking as I pulled out my phone. The police came and took a report, but they weren't exactly eager to jump into the case. Without cameras or witnesses, they said it would be tough to prove anything. They asked if I had any enemies or had received any threats. I mentioned Vanessa and our falling out, but even to my own ears, it sounded a little weak. A friendship gone bad over wedding drama didn't seem like a strong enough motive for something this dangerous. I wasn't taking any chances, though. That same day, I called my landlord and had the locks changed on my apartment. I started parking my car in the garage instead of the driveway. Every morning before I drove anywhere, I checked under my car. I became hyper-aware of everything around me, jumping at small noises, constantly looking over my shoulder. About a week after the brake incident, I was grocery shopping when I spotted someone familiar at the end of an aisle. Derek, Vanessa's husband. He saw me too. For a second, we just stared at each other. I thought about turning around, avoiding him, but something made me push my cart forward. "Hey," I said when I reached him. "Jennifer," he nodded, looking really uncomfortable. "How are you?" I asked. "Oh, just trying not to die in a car accident," I blurted before I could stop myself. His eyebrows shot up. "What?" "Someone cut my brake line last week. Could have killed me if I hadn't caught it," I said. Derek's face turned pale. That's horrible. "Do they know who did it?" I shrugged. "I have my suspicions." He looked down at his shopping basket, then back up at me. Look, Jennifer, he said quietly, I don't know everything that happened between you and Vanessa, but she's been different since the wedding. Angry. Obsessed with you betraying her. I've tried to talk to her, but she won't listen. She told everyone she planned that entire wedding herself, I said, the bitterness creeping into my voice. After I spent hundreds of hours doing it for free, Derek at least had the decency to look ashamed. I know, he said. I tried to tell her that wasn't right, but she just got mad at me too. Said I was taking your side. We stood there in awkward silence, the buzzing of the fluorescent lights overhead filling the space between us. Be careful, Jennifer, he said finally. I'm really worried about her. She's not acting like herself. That conversation shook me more than I wanted to admit. If her own husband was worried about Vanessa's mental state, I definitely had to take this seriously. I went home and ordered a security camera for my front door and motion sensor lights for around the house. The next day at work, I couldn't concentrate. I kept thinking about Vanessa, about our friendship, and how everything had gone so wrong. Had she always looked down on me and I just hadn't seen it? Or had something changed over the years? I decided to dig a little deeper. I started going through old photos on my phone, looking for signs I might have missed. There were hundreds of pictures of us, at concerts, on road trips, at parties, just hanging out at each other's apartments. We looked happy. We looked like equals. But as I kept scrolling through more recent photos, I noticed a shift. Over the past year, Vanessa had started positioning herself differently, always a little ahead of me in photos, always making sure her outfit or jewelry stood out more. Subtle little things, but the message was clear. She was trying to pull away, to set herself apart. I dug deeper, checking out old social media posts from before I blocked her. Her captions had changed too. Earlier, she'd post things like my bestie or love this girl, but lately it was stuff like taking Jennifer out for a treat or showing her how the other half lives, like she was doing me some big favor by being my friend. The more I looked, the clearer it became. Our friendship had been falling apart for a while, and I was just too loyal or maybe too blind to notice. Planning her wedding had just ripped the mask off. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. You should have just shown up to the wedding. Now you've made things worse for yourself. I almost dropped my phone. I didn't reply, but I took a screenshot and saved it in a folder I'd started for evidence, just in case. The next morning, I woke up to an email from my credit card company about suspicious activity. Someone had tried to make several big purchases overnight. I called them immediately and found out someone had even tried opening 3 new credit cards in my name, using my social security number and address. Identity theft. Just what I needed. I spent my entire lunch break on the phone with the credit bureaus, freezing my credit reports and setting up fraud alerts. I had no solid proof it was Vanessa, but come on, the timing was way too perfect to be random. She knew all my personal details, my birthday, my mom's maiden name, even my social security number from when we rented that beach house years ago. That weekend, I was supposed to go on my 3rd date with Robert, a guy I'd been seeing. We were taking it slow, just some casual dinners and a movie, but I really liked him. He was easy to talk to, made me laugh, and seemed genuinely interested in me. With everything happening with Vanessa, I almost canceled. I didn't want to drag anyone new into my mess. But at the last minute, I decided I deserved a normal night out. I'd been living in fear for weeks, jumping at every sound and checking my rearview mirror constantly. I needed to feel normal again. We met at a small Italian restaurant downtown. Robert was already at the table when I got there, looking handsome in a blue button-down shirt. He stood up to hug me. You look beautiful, he said as I sat down. For the first time in days, I felt myself relax. We ordered wine and pasta, and for a while, I actually managed to forget about Vanessa. Robert told me about his week at work. He was redesigning a local community center, and I shared some funny coworker stories, carefully leaving out the stuff about brake tampering and identity theft. It felt normal. Exactly what I needed. After dinner, we decided to take a walk around downtown. The weather was mild, and the streets were alive with people, music, and shop lights. Robert took my hand as we strolled along. I was just starting to think the night might end with a real kiss when I saw her. Vanessa. She was standing across the street, staring right at us. I froze mid-step, my hand tightening in Robert's. He followed my gaze and caught a glimpse of her just before she turned and walked quickly away, her blonde hair swinging behind her. What's wrong? He asked. You look like you've seen a ghost. That was my ex-best friend, I said, my voice shaky. The one who just got married. The bridezilla? Robert raised an eyebrow. Yeah, bridezilla. But this wasn't just some random encounter. I knew it. Downtown had dozens of places to eat and hang out, spread out across several blocks. The odds that Vanessa would just happen to be across the street from our restaurant were basically zero. She was following me. The rest of the date was ruined. I tried to pretend everything was fine, but I couldn't stop looking over my shoulder. Robert noticed and suggested we call it a night. He walked me to my car, concern etched on his face. "Are you sure you're okay, Jennifer? You seem really on edge." I hesitated, then decided to be honest. "I think my ex-friend is stalking me. And I think she might have messed with my car brakes last week." Robert didn't pull away or look at me like I was crazy. Instead, he looked genuinely alarmed. "Did you go to the police?" "They took a report, but there's not much they can do without solid proof," I explained. Robert insisted on following me home. He even checked under my car before letting me drive. When we got to my house, he waited while I unlocked the door and looked around inside. "Text me after you lock up," he said. "And call me if anything weird happens." Anytime. Seriously. I appreciated his concern more than I could say. But as I locked the door and set the alarm, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was dragging him into something dangerous. Maybe it would be safer to keep my distance until I figured out how to deal with Vanessa. The next morning, I woke up to another text from the unknown number. "He's not good enough for you." But then again, who would be? A chill ran down my spine. She had been following me. She had seen me with Robert. This wasn't just paranoia anymore. I realized then that I couldn't keep living like this, looking over my shoulder, afraid of what she might do next. I needed to end this. I knew where she worked, the real estate office downtown where she'd been for 5 years. I decided I would go there, confront her face to face in public. Somewhere she couldn't cause a scene without risking her job. That morning, I dressed carefully, choosing an outfit that was polished and professional. If Vanessa thought I was low class, I was determined to prove her wrong. I wore my best work dress, did my makeup perfectly, and even put on the pearl earrings my grandmother gave me when I graduated college. The real estate office was bustling when I arrived. A receptionist greeted me with a practiced smile. "How can I help you today?" "I'm here to see Vanessa Mitchell," I said, trying to sound confident. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but she'll want to see me." "I'm Jennifer, an old friend." The receptionist's smile faltered slightly. "Let me check if she's available." She picked up the phone and whispered something I couldn't make out. After a moment, she hung up and pointed toward a door at the back of the office. "You can go right in," she said. I walked through the office, feeling curious stares from the other agents. Vanessa's door was slightly open. I knocked once, then pushed it the rest of the way. She sat behind her desk, looking exactly like I remembered, perfectly highlighted blonde hair, an expensive blouse, flawless makeup. She didn't look surprised to see me. It was almost like she'd been expecting me. "Jennifer," she said coolly. "What a surprise." I closed the door behind me and took a deep breath. "We need to talk." "About what?" She leaned back in her chair, the picture of casual indifference. "About you tampering with my car. About you trying to steal my identity. About you following me on my date last night." She laughed, but it was hollow, without any real humor. "That's a lot of accusations. Do you have any proof?" "Don't play dumb, Vanessa. I know it was you. No one else has my spare key. No one else would have a reason to hurt me." "Hurt you," she said, raising an eyebrow. "You're the one who hurt me. You abandoned me right before my wedding. After everything I trusted you with. After I planned your entire wedding for free, I shot back. After I overheard you calling me a low-ass farmer-slave girl. After you took credit for all my work." She shrugged, studying her manicure. "Not my fault you're so sensitive. It was just girl talk. You weren't supposed to hear it. So you admit it?" I admit I was frustrated. Always needing validation. Always reminding me of your sad little background, like it was my fault you grew up poor. I felt like I'd been slapped. This wasn't the Vanessa I thought I knew. This was someone cold, cruel, calculating. "I want my key back," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "And I want you to leave me alone. No more following me. No more messing with my car. No more weird texts from unknown numbers." She tilted her head, studying me with a smirk. "I don't know what you're talking about, but if you're that worried about your car, maybe you should buy a new one." "Oh wait, you can't afford that, can you?" I leaned forward, planting my hands firmly on her desk. "Listen carefully. I have a file. It includes a mechanic's report on my brake line, fraud alerts from my credit cards, and security footage from my front door. If anything else happens to me, anything, that file goes straight to the police." It was a bluff. I had some evidence, but not enough to tie it directly to her. But she didn't know that. I saw a flicker of uncertainty cross her face before she covered it with her usual mask of indifference. "You should leave, Jennifer. I have clients coming soon." "I mean it, Vanessa. Stay away from me." I turned and walked out, my heart hammering. I didn't know if my bluff had worked, But at least I'd made it clear I wasn't an easy target anymore. As I drove home, I felt a jumble of emotions: relief that I had confronted her, fear of what she might do next, and deep sadness over what our friendship had become. 15 years of memories, all poisoned by the realization that she never really respected me. She always saw me as beneath her. When I got home, I checked the mailbox and found an envelope with no return address. Inside was my spare car key and a note that simply read, "This isn't over." I should have felt relieved to have my key back. Instead, a heavy dread settled in my stomach. Vanessa wasn't done with me. This was just the beginning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation in my head, thinking of all the things I should have said. I checked my doors and windows over and over, jumping at every creak and groan in my old apartment. Around 2 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, my heart pounding. A minute later, the notification popped up. I hesitated, then played the message, heavy breathing first, then Vanessa's voice, slurred and angry. "You think you can threaten me? You're nothing, Jennifer. Nothing. I made you. I gave you a taste of a better life, and this is how you repay me? You should have thanked me in your wedding speech. You should have been grateful I even let you be part of my special day." I saved the voicemail and added it to my evidence folder. Then I blocked the number, knowing it wouldn't stop her if she really wanted to keep harassing me. The next morning, I woke up to a bank notification. My account was overdrawn. I logged in, panicking, and saw that nearly all my money had been withdrawn. Just enough left to trigger an overdraft. When my automatic rent payment hit, I called the bank immediately. They confirmed the withdrawal had been made in person, across town. Whoever did it had my ID and answered my security questions. They launched an investigation, but in the meantime, my account was frozen. I was officially broke. My rent check would bounce. I had maybe $50 in cash to survive until the bank sorted things out, which could take days, maybe weeks. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was financial destruction. And I knew exactly who was behind it. Normally, I'm not the type to get angry. I'm a peacemaker, a people pleaser, someone who tries to see the best in others. But as I sat there staring at my empty account, something inside me cracked. I wasn't going to let myself get walked on anymore. Not after everything I'd overcome to get here. Not after everything Vanessa had done. When I realized just how far she was willing to go to destroy my life just because I dared to stand up to her, I knew I was ready to fight back. And by the time I was done, she'd be the one wishing we had never met. That night, I sat in my tiny apartment eating ramen noodles because that's literally all I could afford. The irony wasn't lost on me. It felt like being back in my broke college days. But this time, it wasn't because I was striving for a better future. It was because Vanessa had pushed me back down. I pulled out a notebook and started making a list. 1. Tampered with my brakes. Attempted murder. 2. Identity theft. 3. Stalking. 4. Bank fraud. 5. Harassing texts and voicemails. Then, I made a list of my evidence. 1. Mechanic's report. 2. Credit fraud alerts. 3. Bank records. 4. The voicemail where she basically confessed. 5. The key and threatening note. It wasn't nothing, but it still felt flimsy. Would the police take it seriously? Maybe. But I didn't just want Vanessa to get a slap on the wrist. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling: exposed, scared, betrayed. I called Robert, even though it was almost midnight. He answered quickly, sounding worried. "Hey, you okay?" "It's late." I gave him a quick rundown about my bank account. He immediately offered to lend me money, which was sweet, but not why I was calling. "Thanks, but I need advice," I said. "How would you handle someone who's trying to systematically destroy your life?" He paused. "Legally, right? You're asking for legal options." "Sure. Let's start there." He suggested filing for a restraining order, hiring a lawyer, maybe even going to the media if the police wouldn't take me seriously. All reasonable, rational options. After I hung up, I opened my laptop and started doing research. I needed to know what I could legally do, and what Vanessa might be vulnerable to. First, I looked up Vanessa's real estate listings. She had several high-end properties under her name. Her commissions must have been tens of thousands of dollars. No wonder she thought she could do whatever she wanted. Next, I checked her social media. Even though I'd blocked her, I could still see her public posts by logging out. Her Instagram was full of staged perfection, expensive brunches, luxury hotels, designer shopping, and, of course, wedding photos with that same false caption about planning it all herself. But one post caught my eye, a professional headshot announcing she'd been nominated for Realtor of the Year by the local association. The ceremony was in 2 weeks. According to the caption, it was the highest honor in local real estate, the crowning jewel of her career. This award meant everything to her. Her entire self-image was wrapped up in success, admiration, and being better than people like me. I kept digging. The Real Estate Association had strict ethical rules. Fraud, criminal behavior, or unprofessional conduct could get someone expelled and stripped of certifications. I smiled for the first time in days. Finally, I had a plan. The next morning, I walked into the police station, clutching my folder full of evidence. This time, the officer taking my report seemed much more interested, especially when I played Vanessa's drunken voicemail. That definitely adds credibility to your claims, he said, jotting down notes. We'll start investigating the bank fraud right away. That's a serious felony. I felt a small wave of satisfaction. But I knew the investigation would take time, and I needed to act before that award ceremony. Next, I went straight to my bank and explained everything to the manager, showing her the police report. She was sympathetic and quickly pushed my fraud claim forward, giving me temporary access to some emergency funds while they dug into it. We take fraud very seriously, she assured me. If someone used a fake ID to get into your account, we have security footage we can share with the police. Things were starting to turn around. But I wasn't depending only on the official process. I had my own plan. That evening, I created a new email account using a VPN. I drafted a detailed message to the Real Estate Association's Ethics Committee, laying out Vanessa's actions and attaching the evidence. But I didn't send it yet. That was my nuclear option. Timing would be everything. The next day, a detective assigned to my case called. Miss Adams, this is Detective Rodriguez. I'm looking into your complaints against Vanessa Mitchell. I answered all his questions and sent him copies of everything in my evidence folder. He seemed especially focused on the brake tampering. That shifts this from harassment to potential bodily harm, he said. We're taking it very seriously. When I hung up, it felt like a weight had lifted off my chest. Finally, someone was listening. But I wasn't about to sit back and hope for the best. I had more moves to make. I called Derek. I wasn't sure he'd even answer, but to my surprise, he picked up. Jennifer? Everything okay? Not really, I said. Has Vanessa been acting strange? Secretive? Making weird withdrawals from your accounts? There was a long pause. Why are you asking? I gave him a cleaned-up version of what had been happening. I could hear his breathing change as he processed it. She's been staying out late, he finally said, coming home drunk, always glued to her phone. I actually thought maybe she was having an affair. Check your bank accounts, I suggested. And maybe your credit report too. He promised he would and thanked me before hanging up. I felt a little bad pulling him into this, but I needed allies and Derek might be the only one who could get through to Vanessa. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. I kept expecting another attack from Vanessa, but nothing came. No creepy texts, no weird bank activity, no signs she was following me. It was almost more unsettling than the harassment itself. I used the quiet to pull my life back together. The bank unfroze my account and restored my stolen money. I upgraded my apartment's security, new deadbolts, window locks, even a doorbell camera. I changed all my passwords, set new security questions, and started parking my car in a secure garage instead of leaving it on the street. A week after our confrontation, Derek texted me. Can we meet? It's important. We met at a downtown coffee shop. He looked awful, unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled like he hadn't slept. I checked everything, he said in a low voice. You were right. She's been moving money around, taking out cash advances on our credit cards. When I confronted her, she just laughed and said I wouldn't understand. I'm sorry, I told him, and I truly meant it. Derek was just collateral damage in Vanessa's war against me. There's more, he said, sliding his phone across the table. He'd found screenshots of conversations between Vanessa and someone named, probably Elizabeth, her bridesmaid. They were talking about me. Their messages were far worse than anything I'd imagined. Need to teach her a permanent lesson, Vanessa had written. Brakes didn't work. Maybe something at her apartment next. Don't do anything stupid, he replied. Scaring her is enough. Not for me, Vanessa answered. I felt sick. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was something darker. I'm filing for divorce, Derek said, taking his phone back. And I saved copies of everything. I'll testify if you need me to. I thanked him, genuinely moved by his support. As we left, he gave me a quick hug. Be careful, Jennifer. I don't think she's done yet. That night, Detective Rodriguez called. They had Vanessa on the bank security footage, wearing a wig, but clearly her. We're preparing to bring her in for questioning, he told me. Stay alert. I should have felt relieved. Instead, dread crept over me. If the police brought her in, she'd know I was fighting back. She might do something reckless. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of smoke. Faint but there. I jumped out of bed and ran to my living room. A small fire was burning on my welcome mat inside my apartment. Someone had slid something burning under my door. I grabbed my fire extinguisher, heart pounding, and put it out. When the smoke cleared, I spotted a half-burned note in the ashes. Next time you won't wake up. I called 911, then Detective Rodriguez. Within an hour, my apartment was crawling with police and fire investigators. They confirmed it was arson. Someone had soaked a rope in accelerant, lit it, and shoved it under my door. This is attempted murder, Rodriguez said grimly. We're bringing her in today. I nodded, too shaken to speak. Once they left, I packed a bag and checked into a hotel. I couldn't stay there. Not anymore. From my hotel room, I made 2 calls. First to Robert, explaining what had happened and why I needed some space. He was understanding but clearly worried. Please let me help, he said. You shouldn't be alone right now. I'll be okay, I promised. The police are handling it. It's almost over. My second call was to my boss, asking for a few days off. I explained I was dealing with a stalker situation. She was surprisingly supportive, telling me to take all the time I needed. That afternoon, Rodriguez called again. We brought Mitchell, Indiana. She denied everything, said you were harassing her. But we have the bank footage, and after the arson attempt, we're getting a warrant for her devices. What happens now? I asked. She's being charged with fraud, arson, and attempted murder. She's being processed as we speak. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I just felt exhausted. This whole nightmare had drained me. But I still had one last move. I opened my laptop and finalized that email to the Real Estate Ethics Committee. I attached everything, police reports, bank documents, screenshots of Vanessa's threats. I added new details about the fire and her arrest. And then I hit send. For good measure, I sent copies to a local crime reporter and to the Realtor of the Year award organizers. I wasn't trying to be vindictive, just making sure she couldn't hurt anyone else. 2 days later, Vanessa was out on bail, wearing an ankle monitor and under strict no-contact orders. I stayed at the hotel a little longer, still not ready to go home. The day before the Real Estate Awards ceremony, the local news broke the story. Prominent realtor charged with fraud, arson, and attempted murder. The article went into detail about her crimes. There were quotes from Detective Rodriguez, statements from the bank. The Real Estate Association immediately suspended her. I watched Vanessa's perfect life implode in real time. The award nomination was pulled. Her brokerage issued a statement cutting ties. Her social media accounts vanished. Derek filed for divorce, citing dangerous and criminal behavior. The final blow came a week later. I was back in my apartment, now outfitted with a new security door and state-of-the-art alarm, when Rodriguez called. Thought you'd want to know, he said. Mitchell took a plea deal. 3 to 5 years for fraud and arson. Attempted murder was dropped in the deal, but she's going to prison. I thanked him and hung up. It was finally over. Vanessa's career destroyed. Her marriage gone. Her reputation ruined. I didn't feel triumphant. Just relieved. 6 months later, life was nearly normal again. I got promoted at work. Robert and I were still seeing each other, slowly, carefully. My apartment finally felt safe. I made new friends, real ones. No one asked me to plan a wedding for free or made snide comments about my background. Sometimes I thought about Vanessa. If prison had changed her. If she regretted any of it. But mostly I thought about how much stronger I was now. How I'd stood up for myself when it mattered. How I refused to be anyone's victim. I didn't need Vanessa's approval anymore. I didn't need to prove my worth to anyone. I knew who I was. And that was enough. The last I heard about Vanessa was through a mutual acquaintance who had visited her in prison. Apparently, Vanessa had asked about me, wanted to know if I was still talking about her. The acquaintance told her I didn't even mention her name anymore. And it was true. She used to be such a big part of my life. Now she was just someone I used to know, someone who taught me a hard but necessary lesson. I never planned another wedding. But I did plan a pretty amazing life. One where I made myself the priority, not someone else's idea of perfect. And honestly, that felt way better than any revenge ever could.